What's up, y'all? Bill Cammack. Today we're going to talk about mixing without using plugins. No plugins at all. You can see across the board here, there's nothing on it, no sends. I have some things set up which I'll explain, but I'm not using them. Initially I was going to do this mix just using Metric Halo Channel Strip 3, but since a lot of conversations come up about this plugin and that plugin, blah blah blah, I wanted to show people you can get a decent static balance with nothing at all. Nothing on the 2-bus, nothing on the submix buses, nothing on the individual channels. We're not putting any effects into use, nothing. We're just using the original files. The song we're listening to today is called Sister Cities by a band called Hop Along. You can find all the information for this song at shakingthrough.com/hopalong. Also, the hyperlink will be in the video comments. It's from Shaking Through, which is also Weather Vane Music. And you've got the actual song here you can play, and a bunch of information about how they put this together. Videos about recording them. You got the gear list, techniques, mix preparation, and here you have the download the raw tracks and or mix stems. So this is what we're going to look at right now, which is Sister Cities by Hop Along. So what we're looking at is these green tracks here are drums. They're up at the top. Red tracks are bass amplifier, and the DI, which is the direct. Got the acoustics in light blue, electric guitars in dark blue, synths in brown. Also have harmonica in that same group, vocals in yellow, effects are purple. Like I said, we're not using these. This quarter delay would have been on the lead vocal. This reverb would have been a global reverb. So all of my individual tracks would have had a send to the global verb, so you can put them all in the same room. Office is a small sounding early reflection reverb that pushes elements back from the listener. You might use that on lead vox, you might use that on bass if you want to move it back a little bit. Black is for submix buses, so all the drums here would be routed here, and then this submix would be routed to the 2-bus or stereo out or output. Same thing, bass would come here, vocals, synths. I would probably have another one for acoustics, another one for electrics, at least one for electrics, probably 2 more for this. So what I would end up with is around 8 submix buses that I can control all at the same time from my MC mix. Speaking of that, these blue bars over here say what the MC mix is looking at, which is the same as these blue bars here. So if I bank over, this moves 8 at a time, or it moves 1 at a time. And what that gives me is control over all these different parameters at the same time. And my panning and my sends and all that other stuff. Another thing as far as setup is I will be using this down here, which is pre-fader metering. What that means is right now all the faders are down, output is on unity, and what happens if I press play is this. You don't hear anything because all the faders are down. But you also don't see anything because right now it's in post-fader metering. So that means I would have to actually bring something up for you to see it. Meanwhile, these channels are actually live, which you could see if you're using pre-fade or metering. So that's what I use it for, is to show me where I have elements that I can use without actually having to hear those elements before I want to. Looking at these meters here, normally all of these would come in somewhere around the top of the green, bottom of the yellow, which I would deal with by using a gain plugin, probably Klanghelm VUMT. Also, since this isn't mixing a bunch of samples, you can have bleed in some of the tracks, which means that a track is marked as one thing, but you have actually other elements of the song inside that same track. So for instance, if we listen to the kick, see, you have the kick and the snare in the kick. When actually we have the snare over here. Over here in the bass, you actually have vocals. The other issue with having vocals in the bass is that it's either not the same part of the comp that they put together, the composition or composite of all the vocal tracks that they used, if they did comp this at all, I don't know, but it's not the same take is the point. So you can hear that better if I pan the bass away from the actual vocal. So that'll throw you off if you're not aware of that. If you turn up for some reason the high frequencies in the bass DI, you're going to get this kind of ghost vocal. So that's why you want to go through individual tracks when you're going to mix something and listen to what's actually on them. Another major bleed location is the drum room. So obviously you're hearing instruments in the drum room. So the drum room, there's actually, this is the left and right rooms, but you also have this Coles mic, which doesn't have that in it. Or rather, I should say, it does have it, but it's way less. So that's one reason you might decide to dump the drum room altogether and make it up yourself. If you're making your own drum verb, you might be sending it from your overheads, which are here. The last setup note I'd like to mention is if you were going to do something like this, I would want the kick over here to hit the 2-bus somewhere around the top of the green, not going into the yellow, because you have to add in all the rest of these tracks anyway, and it's going to build up from here and get higher. Also, since in this case I'm not using a compressor, they're going to be random volumes to the kick, so you just try to get the highest level one high in the green. Also, since you have kick in and kick out, you want to get that balance before you figure out where it's going to hit the 2-bus. Actually, that works for me, minus 12 dB. Then what you would do is go ahead and make your balance. You want to check your 2-bus every once in a while to make sure you're not going into the red up here. If you are, you can just select all the faders, pull them down, and they'll all come down in proportion to each other. So I'll breeze through this right quick, and if there are any notes, I'll mention them later.